Alright, so the new Premier League app for 2016-17 is live, including Fantasy Premier League. So I'm Joe from Fantasy Football Manager, and this is my first look at the new app, and also an update on my squad going into the new season. So it was around this time last year that I did a video asking about
what is the best app for playing Fantasy Premier League?
And ultimately, the best answer was simply the mobile version of the website. So if you just went to m.fantasy.premierleague.com, you got taken to the mobile version of the desktop site, and it worked just fine. So Premier League, in their wisdom, last year actually charged people for an app. This is not something that I would have bought into, and a lot of people didn't want to buy it. So I think the Premier League have at least listened to that feedback and have now made a free version of the app. So let's open it up. Now, as I understand it, this is only available on iOS at the moment, so only available from the App Store. I don't know when the Android version is due, but I'm sure it's coming very soon. I'm sure it's very similar. But first things first, it's a all-in-one app. So it's the Premier League app. It's not just for Fantasy Premier League. So that's quite good. So we'll get other things such as news and stats. So we can take a look at things throughout the season. This might become more relevant. But obviously the one thing that we are interested in, especially on this channel, is this middle tab here and the Fantasy Premier League games. So let me just sign in, and then I'll show you my updated squad, and we can take a look at some of the features of the app. So straight away, I'm just going to jump into the transfer section so you can see my entire squad. And the first thing you'll notice is that you don't have to scroll up and down to see the whole squad. Happy days. So this is something that was really bugging a lot of people on the new desktop site, is that you have to scroll up and down to see different parts, different things that you're interested in. You have to scroll up and down, and that's kind of annoying, but at least now with the app, it's all in one screen. Although saying that, the mobile version of the Fantasy Premier League website does the exact same thing. But one thing I've noticed here that's a bit different is if I switch over to this list view and then scroll over to the right, I now get the next 3 fixtures for each of my players. So that's actually pretty nice. I mean, it was something that Fantasy Football Fix have been doing for a while. So I don't know if it's something that the Premier League have actually taken into account. And you know, people plan ahead with their FPL teams. So why not incorporate that into the app? And it looks like they've done that for this season. So that's pretty good. So that's a positive for sure. If I go back to my squad, I can just talk you quickly through what I've done. So basically, one word, Zlatan. I mean, his debut, he scored after, 3-4 minutes? So I kind of have to have Zlatan in my team now. And look at this team selected by percentage. It's 32% picks at the moment. So I'm thinking, even if he fails in the first couple of games, it's not going to hurt me too much in terms of ranking, because basically everyone else has got him. So I'm happy to have him in my team as well. The problem is that he costs 11.5 million. So with that in mind, I've had to reshuffle and reshape the whole team pretty much. The defense is almost the same as what it was in the first draft of this team. And so I brought in Stones over Van Aanholt, and also Williams is now in instead of Otamendi. So what I'm thinking with Stones, there's a lot of rumours at the moment that he could go to Man City. So I'm thinking Stones at 5 million is quite a cheap way of getting in that Man City defence if he does make the switch. And Williams is just a solid FPL option. I basically just forgot about him when I made my first squad. So Williams is in, and there is talk that he could go over to Everton as well, potential transfer. But let's see how that pans out. I'll be happy with having him in because I know he's such a good player. And now the other big changes really have happened in the front 8. So Deulofeu coming in, had a really strong pre-season so far for Everton. He's looking good and he's cheap, so he's been able to free up some funds for Ibrahimovic. Kabay is staying in, Ayew is still in from the first draft, but De Bruyne is now in. Now I've gone big guns with him. It's a kind of a gamble. I've gone over Mkhitaryan, over Mahrez, over Payet. I just think with Man City's early fixtures, De Bruyne can be the kickstarter to get my season up and running and do really well. And he's pretty much proven that he can perform in terms of FPL week in, week out. So De Bruyne is in. And Sermon, really, he is just going to be bench fodder, if I'm honest, because I want to play that 3-4-3 formation I talked about in the last video. And then moving on to the strikers, I did have, obviously, Aguero, no brainer, I'm not even going to discuss him. But as well as Aguero, I had Long and Deeney in my opening squad. But I've now switched over to Zlatan, I have to bring him in. And basically the only option I could afford then was either Wilson or Long. Now I'm going to go for Callum Wilson. It's a bit of a gamble. I know Southampton have got some decent fixtures. Shane Long could do well in the opening games, but I feel it's almost a coin flip between Wilson and Long. But that's how things are looking at the moment. I've also swapped my keeper. So I didn't have Holes starting keeper, but I've gone for Valdez. Now let's just take a look at this. If we're looking at, now we're going back to looking at features of the app. Now let's say if I want to swap Valdez back to the whole goalkeeper. Okay, so I just need to select him, transfer out. Then now I would expect a list to come up with potential options, but I've got select players to transfer out next step. So I have to click another button to get to the list of people I bring in instead. But anyway, let's have a look at this screen where I've got all the information I usually need to make my transfers. Okay, so I can sort by price, I can sort by club, I can sort by other things. Now the ICT index, I finally found out, is a balance of, or a combination of, the influence, creativity and threat scores that the FPL themselves have allotted to each individual player. So of course for goalkeepers it doesn't make much sense to look at the ICT index, but just in case you were wondering, that's what that is. But let's have a look at the percentage selected by. That's quite a good indicator of a player popularity. That's pretty much why I've gone De Gea as my main goalkeeper, and I did want Jakupovic as the backup goalkeeper, who's never really going to be used, I'll be honest, because De Gea is going to be the one in. So okay, so now I've picked him, and I now have to click next step again. And then I can then click confirm. Alright, so that's a little bit clunky, possibly a bit more time consuming, but at least it kind of stops those simple errors when making transfers. Now I've made my transfers. Now usually I'd expect to go back to either my squad or my team view, but I'm not. I'm taking back to this menu. So yeah, maybe a little fun thing with the app. But now let's go back to pick team. So this at the moment is my starting 11. Again, very much subject to change. It could all change. But what do you make of it? And what do you make of the new app? Feel free to comment below. I've been Joe from Fantasy Football Manager, and I'll speak to you soon.